So we have now the two endpoints for getting all the albums or getting a single album. Let's start with the next one, which is post albums, the one that we will use to create a new album. So in this case, we say app.post, and it is albums. So you can see that it's the same like this one. So the verb matters, because if we send get, we'll go to that handler. If we say post, we'll go to this handler. And again, like all the handlers, it has a rec and response. And yeah, this one is supposed to get the client will post a new album, and we should be end up adding it to the our list of albums. So how does the client send something? We can send using just post. Post has a payload, and if I go here and just change this to albums and post, you can see that there is a body here, and this is the body for it. So I will do a post, and I will send it the information here, and we define what the type of it is. JSON, we say it's JSON, and we post this, and then the server can receive whatever was posted from the client and do with it what it needs to do, which in this case just adding it to the list of albums. So how can the server get hold of that data that was sent from the client? To be able to do that, we'll have to install another package. It's called body parser. It just makes it easier for us to handle different types of body content being sent. So we chose to send this as JSON in the body, but there are other formats, other ways of doing that. So body parser helps make it easier for us to get that, and this is called body parser is called the middleware. Middleware, there are pieces of code that run during the life cycle of a request response. So this will run before we send back a response, and it helps Express to get hold of either put more stuff on the response or get stuff from the request. So we have to start, we use the body parser middleware. So we can require it from the package that we just installed. It's called body parser with a dash, but we cannot have a dash in a variable name, so just body parser. And then we tell Express to use that body parser .json. This is the way it's used, and it's one of the things that we haven't done so far, that we should look at the documentation for these things. So when I installed body parser, I don't know by heart that this is the way I use it. I know that body parser, I had to go to look at it on its page. It tells me how to install it, it tells me how to require it, and it tells me how to use it as well. So it's good to look at the documentation for whatever package that you are using. The same for Express. Express.js actually has very good documentation. If you go to there, and then you can go to the guide, and there is an API. We're using 4 point, but everything we've done so far is in the documentation. You can go there and go and understand exactly what things you can do even more than what we've done so far. So this is the way that we use the middleware for body parsing. And what this does is that here inside the post, let me just put console log that here I'm inside post /albums, and if I just console log rec.body, so that middleware that I added, it helps us to have property inside the request object called body, and this will be set to whatever is sent from the server. Now if I say npm run dev, I'll run this, and if I send this, it's hanging because we didn't end the request, we didn't send anything back, but I can see here in the console log that I got the payload that was sent from the client here. If I change this to, instead of Beyonce, Muzaffar, here the client, it's still hanging. I'll get Muzaffar here as well. So this is what we are, how we can send from the client, and this is the server. And the server now, because we're building locally, it's in the same machine, but it can be, it's like when we call API GitHub, it's somewhere in a remote server, so it can be somewhere else. It will be somewhere else, but the client can communicate with it using HTTP. So we used get, and now we're using post, and we used that body parser to be able to send reg.body. And once we have that, the information that we need, we can just, this is a very naive implementation, we can say .push albums data.push reg.body, and then we need to send back. Normally you will send back what you just added, but we will send back all the, or we can just send status saying 200. Okay, this is good, it's okay. And this is, if I send it, we get okay 200, or I can send back okay 200. We can say that we want to send back a message saying status okay, status added, it's our API. But normally we send back what we've just what we've just added. So this is sending back as an object saying status added, and then a client can read that and so on. But it's okay in our case. We can send 200, which is okay. There is also 204, which is actually more suitable in this case. See, we're trying to use the language of HTTP, so we get 204. Not 204, it's 201, which is the one I meant to use. 201 is an HTTP status code, that means created, because we just created a resource on the server. So this is more suitable than using 200. And these HTTP statuses, you can just, if we have HTTP status, you can see a lot of them, that yeah, the 200s are successes, the 300s redirection, client errors, server errors. We've used so far 404 for not found, 201 for created, and 200. And it's just to make the client, as I said, it's an agreement between the client and the server, and if you use the right HTTP codes, then the client will be able to understand your API better. So 201 is definitely a better code, because we're creating something is better than saying 200. Yeah, and then if I check that, so if I check my API, we posted something, says we got 201 created. If I do another call to get the list of albums, so just get, then you see that we have a third one, the one that we just created. If I just, to make sure this, if I put something else, another one, there is something else, and then I call this, you see we have the new one that we've added. It's whatever we're adding is being added, because we are making the functionality, we're pushing to the albums data. If I kill the server and start it again, we are back to the very first two. The reason for that is that we are not really using a proper storage mechanism. We just have a global variable and we're pushing to it. And this is a very naive implementation. Normally you want a database so that you have persistence, you have storage, and this is what we will do in the next module and so on, that we'll use a proper database. You also don't, we discussed before that it's a bad design to have global state. So right now we have global state, and this is just because it's what we want to concentrate on at this stage is the core server or express ideas, is not saving data or so on. It's about routes and endpoints and so on. But this is a very, very basic implementation. At some stage, we have to use a proper database to save this so that when we restart the server, we don't lose the data that we have.